everybody. So we are so excited. We are here talking classic Disney, and we're here to talk Lady and the Tramp. And my friend Stanford is here to talk about it with me.
Hi, Rachel.
Yeah, so this was so fun. The reason why we decided to, because we're doing this podcast, not in chronological order. This is the 15th of the Disney animated classics, and we decided to do this because we just had this signature Blu-ray release that came out, and so we thought it'd be the perfect time to talk about this great Disney classic, Lady and the Tramp. It came out in 1955, and where would you say that Lady and the Tramp is sort of ranked for you amongst the Disney classics? Has it been a favorite of yours, or?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
it's an absolute favorite of mine. I think it's just one of the most nostalgic, sentimental, happy, feel good movies. And I also absolutely adore the animation in this film. I just think it's just at the height of the studio's glory, I think, too. Just riding the wave of those films in the 50s, starting with Cinderella in 1950,
Yeah.
and then, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, Lady and the Tramp. I mean, talk about four incredibly animated films. Well, Sleeping Beauty, but still, I just feel like Lady and the Tramp is kind of the apex of that, and I love it. And I love I love the story, love the character designs. There's just so much I love about it. How about for you?
Well, and all of the those films are so different.
Yeah, tone and just the types of stories that they're telling.
Yeah. I grew up with a lot of pets, with dogs.
Yes, I had one dog growing up, and absolutely adored the dog. And I think that probably plays into some of my love of Lady and the Tramp too, because I really, I love dogs, and I'm allergic to cats. I don't like cats either. And so that whole concept of that some of the villains, villains in the movie are the Siamese cats.
Yeah,
that works for me too. But more just to the love of dogs. I love dogs.
I never grew up with dogs because my brother and sister were both very, very allergic, and I'm also allergic to cats. And so I honestly it takes me a while to kind of warm up to a dog. When I have a little bit of a nervousness around strange dogs, but I still, you don't need to be. That's the great thing about this movie, is that you don't need to be like a super huge dog person in order to love this movie.
Yeah.
It's just so sweet, and it's so lovely. Yeah. And I feel like it's the kind of movie that's easy to just kind of dismiss as like either a kid's movie or just like a throwaway kind of movie for some reason. It doesn't have like gravitas in the way that some
no gravitas. Not really heavy on the plot.
Yeah, there's no like, it's not a musical. Well, maybe there are a few songs, but there's not like an I Want song with this big moment, kind of a thing. And so, but I think that's part of what makes it so special, is that it's just like an everyday America story. And I really like that it starts out, you have to excuse me, I'm still a little sick, but I really like that it starts out, in the whole history of the world, there is but one thing that money cannot buy, to wit, the wag of a dog's tail.
Dog's tail.
It's so cute.
I love that too. It's such a perfect way to start the film.
Well, and it really helps, I think, too, that starts at Christmas, because that just even adds to sort of this feeling of nostalgia, and Norman Rockwell's Saturday Evening Post, Main Street USA, all of that kind of thing that you get in this movie. There's something about Christmas that's like the apex of that kind of storytelling.
Yes, I agree. I think it is such a charming way to open it, and I just love that camera pan. How they go into the house. I thought an interesting anecdote that I read, Rachel, is applicable. Walt Disney and his wife Lillian, when they first were married, Walt was crazy about dogs, and Lillian didn't want anything to do with them. She hated dogs. And Walt actually found her a dog. It was a chow, and as a puppy, I think the essay said that the dog was maybe 10 weeks old, and he put it just like in the movie. He put it in a hat box, and then put a bow around it, and then put it under the Christmas tree. And when Lillian saw the hat box, she was really mad because she didn't like anyone buying her hats or her clothing. She thought it was a hat, and then the box started to move, and then it was a dog. Like, it turns out that this dog became a dear, kind of a cherished family pet, and Lillian loved it more than anybody. So that was a cute.
That's so cute, and that is such a cute scene. I mean,
I
don't know how you could not think that scene is so cute.
Is there that the puppy is the lady is a puppy is like the cutest puppy ever.
Yeah.
Ever. You know?
Oh, she's adorable.
And just that scene how they're trying to put her in her little doggy bed, and she keeps wanting to play with the people, and oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, because that's a pretty long scene, but it's just so cute. And
adorable. I love it. I just can't get enough of it, and nothing really happens, It's just so cute, though. Slice of life.
Yeah, I really liked in these special features of the Blu-ray. There's this they have all these like storyboard meetings, which they have recreated almost like an audio commentary of the movie. It's really cool, and so they have an actor voicing all these actors voicing different people, including Walt Disney, and I really like he says, we've had people here who were afraid of something a little sentimental. Before we knew it, we were throwing in gags so somebody would laugh. If we can make it convincing, it's what makes a picture to me. And I really like that a lot. And I think that really says a lot about Lady and the Tramp.
Yes, agreed.
That if they can make these scenes that, you've got dogs eating spaghetti, and if they can make it, that's super sentimental, super cheesy, but you like it and you buy it and you want to watch it. Mm-hmm. And so that's what makes a picture to Disney. This movie, I think, just screams Walt Disney more than any other movie, I think. I don't know if it was his favorite or if it was one of his favorites or whatever, but it just feels so much like Walt and so much like Main Street USA Disneyland. And we had talked a little bit about Marceline and his the important. Why don't you explain a little bit about what's so important about Marceline?
Well, Walt's family moved to Marceline, Missouri when he was young. He was born in Chicago, but then they moved to Marceline, and it was a town that was very influential on his growing up, and it was like the idyllic small town America. So Main Street USA and Disneyland was based on the Main Street in Marceline, Missouri, almost down to the dimensions of the street. I've been to Marceline, and it was so fascinating to see how, like the 2 blocks, there of downtown, of how much it really does feel almost like Main Street USA. The architecture's a little different, and then clearly stuff's been, modified and modernized and whatnot. But still, there's just this certain charm about the Midwest, and it really captures it. And I think that was definitely, as we had talked, it really feels like that was an influence on Lady and the Tramp. I've wondered kind of how the hills are. Marceline was a little more flat, but because how the Lady and the Tramp, the little town is almost it's hilly. It almost looks like it's kind of East Coast in a way, or something. Or as we were saying in some of the stuff that I was reading, it could be maybe even like Illinois, around the Chicago area, kind of almost like a suburb of Chicago. It seems like it was all for nostalgia. It almost seems like it was kind of more of an affluent little town, though, doesn't it? Just kind of given how charming their homes were and how big they were and the fences and all that stuff, you know. Anyway, it's just so charming. But anyway, I digress. But Marceline clearly had just a tremendous influence on Walt and his vision of what was good and right with America.
Mm-hmm. It's probably some mixture, but it definitely just has that Norman Rockwell kind of a feel to the movie.
Yes,
for sure. And some people might find that cloying, but I don't know. I don't feel like it is. I feel like it's done with enough sort of love and it's just so well executed that I think it doesn't feel cloying to me. So.
Right, and you know, one of the things I was reading about in the same essay, Rachel, was talking about how the Disney story team was really trying to figure out the setting for this, and they opted. I mean, I think even looking at a modern day setting, you know, to the time in the 50s, but they opted to go for a more nostalgic look, feeling that it was more appropriate to the story and that it also could potentially just be more entertaining because, again, people were wanting to have an escape, right? You know, to go to the movies for an escape. And clearly it was a great artistic choice.
Definitely. So, okay, so we get our start, like you said, with the Christmas, and then we get little puppy lady, and we get sort of this introduction with, you know, with how close Lady and Jim Deere are, and you know, how everything is just perfect. And we also get our introduction to Jock and Trusty, which are the kind of bachelor dogs.
Yes. The bachelor dogs in the neighborhood, the sidekicks, and they're so fun. I mean, aren't they perfect too?
I love them. I think they're some of the best side characters in all of Disney for sure.
I agree, absolutely.
Yeah, I always get them confused. I always get their names confused. But they're so great. You know, you've got Jock. You know, this it's Jock. Where Jock is
Jock's like the little. Is he a terrier or I don't know what breed he is, but he's Scottish, right?
Yeah, I love. And then Trusty with the reliable.
Yeah. Have I mentioned
the reliable before? Yeah, Laddie.
So cute, and I love like when Rusty's scratching his ear, whatever. I mean, you know how like all that it's kind of, you know, they come for it. I mean, he's just it's so great.
But they can be so sweet too.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just
Lady.
Yeah, it's not just like pure comic relief, which sometimes the sidekicks are, and that's fine. But this, like, they even offer to basically like marry Lady.
Yeah.
At a certain point, which is so sweet.
Yeah, there's
and so Lady gets her license, which is very exciting, very pretty.
Right, her beautiful collar and her license.
Mm-hmm. And you get your introduction to the Tramp. That he just kind of he just kind of eats from wherever he wants to eat. He has his Monday house and his Tuesday house, and
he's free as a bird, right? I mean, he can just kind of do what he wants. He's really the polar opposite of Lady.
Yeah, and you do find out that things are beginning to change in Lady's house. So it's pretty upsetting for her, you know. And they even say at some point that I think it's Darling who says, or Jim Deere says, I don't want to be walking that dog around, and she's like, oh, Lady is horrified by this.
Devastated.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's when we get the sort of the dialogue from the Tramp, where he says it's just a cute little bundle of trouble.
I love that sequence so much, Rachel. And every time I'm really in awe of it every time I watch this movie, because, you know, it's where Lady's talking about what's, you know, going on at home, right? Describing that Darling's pregnant and what's, you know, like what she doesn't know what's about ready to rock her world, but she doesn't know things are really changing. And how they draw Lady's character and the background changes, like it's a calendar, and then she's in these different settings, and then she's still in the same place. I just think that how they storyboarded that and then executed the animation of that is just so perfect. So well done. Again, just these animators at the top of their game doing such a beautiful job with it.
Well, they made it so easy to relate to. Like, even if you're not a dog owner, you can relate to like things changing.
Yes, exactly. And and her world's really rocked, and she doesn't know why. And it's just, again, they give her the voice acting so good in it too. How she's expressing what's happening, and then Tramp's there. His realistic view of or street savvy view of the world.
And it's so funny. There's so many good scenes, like when Darling wants watermelon and chopped suey in the middle of the night.
In the middle of a blizzard.
Yeah. And then you have like the bachelor party and the
isn't that clever? Yeah.
And I mean, it's done from the perspective of the dog, so everything looks so big, so chaotic, so scary, and that makes total sense.
It's just kind of like these legs.
You have the baby arriving, and just great with Jim Deere, rushing down the stairs, telling the doctor, "It's a boy, it's a boy."
Was that fun?
So funny. The doctor's like, okay, because he does this every day, whereas like for Jim Deere, this is a big deal. So it's really funny. Right. And Aunt Sarah is on the phone. So with Aunt Sarah, without naming names, is this a kind of relative that you can relate to a little bit? Like someone who's kind of loud and overbearing, but has good intentions and sort
absolutely
of helpful. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that probably every family has some kind of an Aunt Sarah, whether it's an uncle or an aunt.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree, and I thought that was a brilliant story choice again too, to have it be Aunt Sarah, not necessarily one of their parents. It wasn't like a grandparent kind of situation, because even though this movie, I mean, the villain is, as we know, we'll talk about, is more the rat, right? You said it's kind of the ultimate villain of this movie, but Aunt Sarah is sure part of it, because she's the one who ends up, putting the muzzle on Lady, again with good intentions, but she's sure frustrating to me. Aunt Sarah always drives me crazy, but I think that's the part of why she's such a good character. What's your take?
Well, I mean, she's totally relatable to me, because I do have that little bit of a fear of animals that I don't know, so I can relate to her jumping to these conclusions,
right?
Over some of her things, but like, I could never imagine muzzling a dog. Like,
I know.
Like I would think that she would call them and be like, I don't know. Like I wouldn't think that she would jump to something on a dog that's not her own dog.
Right.
But it's still within the realm of believability, though, I think. And and there really isn't like a true villain in this movie. I mean, you have like the dog catcher who's just doing his job.
Right.
You have Aunt Sarah, who's not like malicious, and you have the rat, but the rat is just a rat. Like it's bad, but like in Siamese, I guess the Siamese twins are the real villains.
Yeah, I mean probably the
Siamese cats.
The Siamese cats.
They're the most malicious.
Yeah, they're the most. I agree, and they're the ones who really propel that plot, that storyline of Aunt Sarah getting really frustrated with Lady and having to, put him on her.
Well, I think Verna Felton is helpful in it, because she's just the best at voice acting.
She's the best. I know. I was just like, she's so fantastic in anything she does.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So they end up, and they, sorry. So Jim Deere and Darling end up going on a trip, and they are leaving the baby with Aunt Sarah, and she brings her Siamese cats. Disney, I feel like there's certain fans who will deny any kind of cultural insensitivity, racism, whatever, and will like try to excuse it all away. And I don't agree with that. But then I also don't agree with the people who were like, burn the copies, like terrible, horrible, whatever, like the other extreme. Yeah. And so I think it's okay to acknowledge that the Siamese cats are definitely like a kind of offensive caricature of like.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not. They're not culturally sensitive.
Yes. I don't think that's a reason to not watch the movie or to get super offended, but you can just acknowledge that, yep, that's the way. It was the 1950s. It was a different culture. I don't think it's as bad as the Red Man song, which we'll talk about when we talk about Peter Pan. But yeah, it's definitely like, it is.
Yeah.
And so, but the weirdest thing I think about the Siamese cats, so they have this song, and it's one of the first Disney villain songs.
Yeah.
That's actually sung by a villain, because you have the Captain Hook song, but that's sung by the pirates to Captain Hook, except for maybe a little bit at the end. But none of the rest of the Evil Queen doesn't have a song. Lady Tremaine doesn't have a song. Maleficent doesn't have a song. None of the other villains have songs. And so this is one of the first like real like we're announcing ourselves, we're a villain song. So we are Siamese. And the thing that I think is so weird though is they do that and they sing their song and they scare a lady and then you never see them again.
Yeah, they're gone for the rest of the movie.
Which is so weird.
Yeah, they've done their damage and they're gone.
Like, why not have them be the ones that are up in the, sort of the rat
in the bedroom? Yeah.
Isn't that? Why do you think? Do you have any insight on that? What do you think?
I wish I did. I mean, it's really an interesting thing that the story people decided to do, and clearly their time in the film is unforgettable. Everybody, I remember, knows that Siamese cat song, right? And but yeah, it's interesting that they don't come back. I wish I did have some insights on it other than it's surprising. They're the only villains that get their own song, and boy, do they have the shortest amount of screen time of any villain too? Probably.
Yeah, so weird.
Yeah.
So the music, the score was written by Oliver Wallace, and the songs were all written by Peggy Lee.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an interesting thing what happened. So she ended up suing Disney.
In the 80s, right, or 90s. I'm trying to think of what that was.
For breach of contract about the songs. And
when Lady and the Tramp got put on VHS, and it made bank, right? And so, and I don't blame her because I think that some laws or some policies got changed overall based on that lawsuit, because I think she truly did. I mean, clearly the judge awarded it in her favor, right? She did have those profits coming to her that Disney wasn't wanting to pay her.
So good for her.
That it ended up in that way, but again, I mean, good for her, and her songs are great. I mean, she wrote and she sings to the Siamese cat song. She sings both parts.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's Peggy Lee. And then she also sings the He's a Tramp song.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, and I mean, because that pretty much sounds like her too. You like realize that's Peggy Lee. Yeah, Bella Notte. I mean, the songs are A+.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think they're a little bit, I would say, underrated.
Like I agree.
Especially He's a Tramp. I think it's a really fun, jazz song. Yeah,
it's so funny, and the dogs that sing backup.
Yeah.
I mean. Basically the men that are singing as dogs, doing the backup.
Yeah,
it's delightful.
Well, and I love that howl song when they first get into the pound.
It just breaks your heart.
It's so
I love it. It's so good. And then, the dogs are there just in the corner crying.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
It's really sad.
It's Disney magic, though, too. You know what I mean? And that it's just like, here's this wonderful emotional moment. It was like, it's an animated dog, and I'm like crying.
Yeah. And so after the Siamese cat song, then we have, that's when Sarah takes Lady down to get the muzzle put on. And she ends up running away, and she ends up meeting Tramp, who helps her get the muzzle off. And the way they do it, they go to the zoo, and the beaver, which that seems like the exact same beaver from Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, I agreed. It's just
even though that's a woodchuck.
Yes, no, totally
over
agree.
Whatever.
It looks identical in every.
Well, even the voice sounds the same.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I think I keep expecting to be like, I'm not in the book. Yeah. So anyway, she gets her muzzle off, and that's when he sort of tells her all about his style of living, and he has his Monday house, his Tuesday house.
Yeah.
And then we get that's when we'd already met Tony earlier when we met Tramp.
Yeah.
Then he got a bone from them, but you have Tony and his sous chef, I guess.
Yeah.
at the Italian eatery, and I loved on the show Movie Fights. One time, a comedian named Mike Carlson. One time, a comedian named Mike Carlson. The question was, what is the best restaurant in all of movies? And his argument was this Tony's restaurant in Lady and the Tramp. He's like, look how nice they treated the dogs. It's got to be the best restaurant ever. It's like, that's so true.
That is so perfect, Rachel. Isn't that just like one of the best sequences ever, too?
Yeah.
Every time I watch that, I just get the biggest smile on my face, and I just have to remember, if I'm ever feeling down, I really just need to put in Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah, it's so true. It really is so. I watched it on. I was so sick this last weekend, and I put it on like it was Friday night or Saturday night, and it just cheered me up.
Yeah,
it really did.
It's so wonderful. That Bella Notte scene, I love how it's got kind of the two parts. First off is, of course, the famous spaghetti scene, which I mean it's one of the all-time great scenes of any film, live action or animated.
Yeah,
it's so charming and so clever and so just perfection. And then and it's when Tony and the sous chef, they're singing. He's got the accordion, and it's so fun. And then they go off into that park, and it's the moonlight, and they've got more of a small chorus singing it, but it still works perfectly. I love how they put their paw prints in the cement and all that stuff. It's so
cute.
You just can hardly stand it.
Yeah, like I think it's one of the best. I don't know, maybe the best like romantic dinners, like candlelight scene ever in like any movie ever.
And it's two dogs, and it's still, it just works on every level. I agree with you. It's so romantic and it's just delightful.
Too, because that's like when Disneyland was founded. It was 1955.
Right, same year that Lady and the Tramp opened. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. So anyway, they have their. You're right. There's sort of two parts. The song. There's the food part, which of course they have the connecting noodles, which is so cute, and then they go off to their magical evening together. We call it that. Never is good in the morning, right? I always. And
right. Lady wakes up and
Lady learns her hard lesson. And he says, there's a great big world out there with no fences around it, but then he wants her to go chase the chickens, and that's what leads them into trouble. She gets sent to the pound.
Gets caught by the dog catcher,
Yeah.
and sent to the pound, and
that's when we get our howling
the
song.
howling scene, which I love, and then they meet Peg.
Yeah.
And
I love all the character animation in that pound.
It's brilliant.
Like, I love Boris the dog.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, I do too. I love it. And the little dachshund that's, like digging the escape tunnel.
Yeah.
It's so cute. Because, that scene is kind of this combination of, like, a jail movie or a world, even like a World War II, kind of thing. Because they're trying to do a jailbreak.
Yeah.
I know that some of those same dogs, or at least their designs, were featured in Oliver and Company. You remember that?
I kind of wondered about that because they definitely.
I thought I heard one of the directors or someone at Disney verify that. Yeah, that was true. That they used some of the same character models from the pound. From that pound scene, Lady and the Tramp, in Oliver and Company. Anyway,
that makes sense. Sense. And she ends up getting freed and getting back home, and Tramp shows up there, and I love it when she's really mad. I love Lady Mad. It's so cute.
Has been relegated to outside, and she's on a chain. She can go inside her little doghouse, but she's on a chain, which really limits her mobility.
So yeah, it's Barbara Luddy.
Oh, that's right.
Lady's her name. Okay. She's great, and I love it when she gets all upset and she's really mad, and she's like, "Who's Trixie?"
All those names that she learned from Peg.
Who's Trixie and Lulu
and Chiquita Rosita,
Yeah. So good.
I messed up the name, but yeah.
Yeah, let's see. It says here, I guess she did a ton of voice work for Disney. Barbara Luddy, Sleeping Beauty, 101 Dalmatians, Robin Hood, Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. Cool.
Really good.
Yeah. She's Kanga.
Well, no
She's
one.
The voice of Kanga.
So much. Love Kanga.
Yeah. And we get the rat with the baby, and they're going up there to try to get the rat, and then of course Aunt Sarah finds them, freaks out, and is calling the police and everything like that. The police come to take Tramp away, but that's when Darling and Jim Deere come home, and they actually listen to Lady, and they're like, she's trying to say something, and that they find the rat. Oh, and this is also right around when we get the scene with Jock and Trusty offering to marry Lady, because she's, I guess, like now a used woman or something like that.
They're so cute about it. They're like trying to make a respectable woman out of her.
Yeah, that's right. That's the way to say it.
It's just so cute.
Yeah. Adorable. And then Jock says, I misjudged him badly. And then Trusty, you gotta love him, we've gotta stop that wagon. And so you get some pretty fun, intense scenes.
Yeah, that's an intense scene when they're trying to chase down
Yeah. And just the ending is so adorable, where you have Jock and Trusty coming over for a visit, and you've got all the cute little puppies. And
that are just like little miniature ladies. And I'm trying to remember the numbers are, as far as, how many boys and how many girls that they have. Hello, I just watched it. But anyway, it's so cute because they're just drawn identical to what,
yeah,
the little puppy lady and what Tramp would look like as a puppy.
Right. Yeah. It's so cute.
Yeah.
And I think that most of the 9 Old Men worked on this movie.
Yes, I believe they did,
if I'm not mistaken. And it's just so lovingly made. It's so carefully made. It just makes you feel good. The animation is beautiful. The music is great, and it's just lovely. I really, really, I think it's an easy one to be like, oh, it's just a dog movie, but it's better than that. Definitely one.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best.
Yeah, it's definitely in my top 20 for sure. It's so hard. That top 20, because I like them all for different reasons.
Yes.
It's very difficult. I have to nitpick like super much. And the only flaw in it is that like the Siamese cats just disappear. That's really my only, and it's a little bit racially insensitive. That's it. That's my only flaws with Lady and the Tramp. Well, this has been so fun to talk about. I just love Lady and the Tramp. I think it was number 17 on my ranking. And like I said, I was very nitpicky at a certain point. So definitely, it's just really, really special. And I gave it an A+ in my review. So that shows like how much I love my top 20 Disney. Like, I think my top 35 Disney films all got A's in my ranking. So like,
exactly.
It's
so hard to pick. Yeah, they're all.
Like, how could you have that at 30? And I'm like, I love it. I don't know. I'm sorry.
I know. It's hard. I think it's admirable that you be able to rank them. That's hard for me.
Yeah. So
I love the film too, and I'd give it an A for sure. A+.
Well, let's pick next month, and I'm going to do the same thing that we did at the very beginning. I'm just going to have a list of all of them, run my fingers over them, and then when you tell me to stop,
okay,
that's the one we'll do.
All right, stop.
Jungle Book.
Yes. I love the Jungle Book.
Yeah, so that'll be so fun. So we will talk about Jungle Book next month. And if you guys have any requests for films that you'd like us to cover, just let us know in the comment section, and we will, we'll be happy to give it some consideration. And so, where can people find you?
Well, I'm on Twitter at Stanford Clark. I also have a movie blog called Movies Past and Present. So it's Movies Past, PAST, and Present.com.
Great. And you can find me here at Rachel's Reviews on iTunes and YouTube, and it's Smiley LDS Girl on social media. So check that out. I have a very busy week this week of various podcasts and videos, and hopefully we'll be back up and doing family movie night next week, because I was just too sick this last week. So thanks so much for joining me and talk about Lady and the Tramp.
Thanks so much, Rachel. It's always a pleasure.
All right, we will see you all next month.